Yeah, she's helpful. So the grown I was cheaper. We're doing these things, like you're trying to look for anything around down the floor, or you have some shit. I should have like things like this. So yeah, I said,
Yes, yes, yes. It's fine. Like you can rest and it is. I tell the story.
I text him. Ask like we I'm sorry.
Now, so when it comes to the facility first, Dick's gonna give it. So I need to take a little review of what's going on. And he's talking. When so if we can just move them up. So the facility comes up to the top of the list. Because he's gonna have to get all the.
Yeah, I mean, particular.
I'm the transportation of the way right. Nonprofit transit. So just sit here and get pictures of I don't want to. No.
So I just need to plug in, or it's just only plug it out.
I did, okay, that's what we, this morning, I had to stay home.
Can you do a travel reimbursement?
Well, I'm travel much harder than. Before traveling, so I got.
There's no take care of your travels is sort of expensive. Right. You have to use of the maps to figure out your mileage.
Okay.
So
Anyway, one of the direction you're.
as you'll be mileage.
Well, once you go over the accounting course.
Exercise stretch.
Either during that put on it, or you can bring it. But it make more sense that way because you send the chemicals. They call it.
No.
No, that's what it comes to consent. Just, just if there's any kind of stuff.
Seeing that around here.
See, how close it back here?
No.
I think.
I got you, Will.
I was just wondering.
Thank you, Chase.
I was gonna get that down to that. Oh, that's what I. Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm breaking this.
I think it's over. It's true. Yeah. The ones that are now. Let's feel right.
Oh, really? My gosh. That's appreciate that. Happily. Right around. I said that. I can't even kick off the started. Yeah.
The way we're facing the reason why.
Then
That's really.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
thought it was next door where I saw it was hardly.
No, it was parked out front and there was slits.
We'll just get tablets, taxi, let's just put it like that.
Yes, everything's fine.
She's lucky. She got on the surf.
Okay.
Yes.
I went to say I got attacked.
There's a word now. So it was somebody. It's
right.
You're not gonna like it. For yourself or your personal.
Sorry, my
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of.
No. So, let's see. All right, good morning. Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's quarterly meeting of the Virginia Museum of Natural History Board of Trustees. Thank you for being here, for your continued service, support of the museum, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I'd like to start with our trustees who are participating remotely. If you could please share your reason, and it could be simple, that it meets the travel distance or just a personal professional obligation. And I'll start with Dick.
Sure, yes. I'm greater than 50 miles away from Martinsville attending a funeral.
David?
Yeah, I'm in Alexandria, so a lot more than 50 miles.
Good morning, Tom.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas also, mileage.
Sarah?
Good morning. I'm on vacation, heading towards Nags Head, so definitely more than 50 miles away.
Backseat, are you driving?
I'm backseat.
Okay.
Okay, I was wondering too. All right, and Lisa?
Hi, I'm definitely with you. We have a medical issue in my family, and I'm not driving.
All right, and I just want to make sure, are you able to hear me? Does anyone have any issues hearing me?
Hearing is good.
Hearing is good.
Okay. All right, if any point you do, please let me know. And I'd also like, oh, sorry. For the record, Joe, I saw you touch it first.
Just sit back, relax, take your time.
And I'd also like to thank Elizabeth Carter Bailey, the foundation's representative, for being with us today. Thank you. And our staff who are here with us on a beautiful Saturday morning, if you didn't realize it's quite nice outside. So thank you for being here with us. And our first item of business is approval of the minutes from February 6th, our board meeting on that day. Are there any corrections or discussion?
I noticed one typo under chair's report. It's on the first page of the minutes. Under the introductions for Miss Catherine McGuire, there's just an H missing in her name. I just double checked if you have it. That's the only thing I caught.
If that's noted, are there any other items? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. That motion carries. I'd like to begin with a brief chair's report. As many of us know, the General Assembly budget remains under consideration, and staff are continuing to monitor those discussions closely. It's important for us to remember that our mission under the Code of Virginia is quite broad. We have responsibilities around education, research, and public service. And at the same time, our state funding has remained the same since 2008. This makes it especially important that we continue thinking strategically about how we support and sustain the museum's long-term mission. And we're going to skip our first staff spotlight and go to our deep dive. And that's a presentation from Zach Potter on social media strategies. We have referred to those a lot in our meetings, keeping up with things going on in Waynesboro and different talks and all sorts of things. Quite clever. If you don't follow, you should. So I will turn it over to Zach. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you everyone for giving me a few minutes of your time this morning to talk about the social media. As Melanie says, it gets mentioned, social media does quite a bit to the board, and I thought it'd be nice to give a little bit of context to how we operate our social media, how we utilize it, and what the benefits have been in recent years. So let me share my screen here real quick. All right. So to start off with, when social media gets mentioned, we're specifically usually talking about Facebook and Instagram, the meta platforms. We do have a presence on other social media platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, but the Facebook and Instagram, we use those heavily for two specific reasons. One is they're tailor-made for the kind of content and that we can really be successful in publishing and in sharing with audiences. They provide great opportunities for personal contacts, messaging people directly, responding to comments, getting the engagement from audiences. Other social media platforms do offer that, but not nearly to the extent that these do. More importantly, though, Facebook and Instagram are where the bulk of our audiences are, and it's by a long shot. Pew Research says that Facebook and Instagram, along with YouTube, pretty much wipe the floor with all the other social media platforms. Was Facebook and Instagram specifically really popular with one of our core audiences, which is parents of children under the age of 18, but more specifically, moms of being a parent of a child around 3 to 12 years of age. These are great ways to reach those audiences, but of course we have all kinds of different audiences interested in the museum for different reasons, whether it's just the scientific research or they philanthropy causes, reasons, participating in programs, of course. We even have media following our social media accounts. We've actually had news crews come to the museum specifically because they were having a slow news day, saw something on Facebook that we had posted or Instagram, and asked if they could come by to cover that. But kind of moving on from that, we use social media for two main reasons. One is storytelling, and the other is the sales. With storytelling, as you all are very well aware, there's a lot going on at the museum, and there's some really interesting things going on in the museum. Not just research and collections, but our education department is heavily active and involved, as well as our exhibits, crew, and operations. A lot of really cool stories to share with people that don't necessarily result in direct sales, but they also allow us to tell our story and get people interested and involved at maybe at a later time in what we offer. And of course, sales is pretty self-explanatory. We're looking to get people inside the museum to participate in just a general visit, education programs, events and festivals, but also to sell memberships, donations, and sell corporations on the idea of sponsorships as well. I'm going to run through this pretty briefly. I know for those who follow our social media are well aware of the kinds of stuff that we publish, but this kind of gives a pretty good overview. Dr. Art Evans and Dr. Cal Ivanov were in Florida the past 3 weeks, and they really good about sending me information about their trip. Really great photos, but it keeps people engaged with what's happening that in the museum or outside of the museum that they aren't able to really get a great grasp of otherwise. There's a limit to what we can do with storytelling within the exhibits, but social media allows us to expand those stories and certain things like a taxidermy collection. One of those things that we thought would be popular, but if you can see it down there, we had pretty good response to this particular post, and people happen to be really interested in taxidermy. So these are stories that maybe they didn't know they were interested in about, but by sharing them, we can kind of spark that interest. And of course, there's Joe with something, I believe that's a wood chip in his mouth. I think they were doing a project locally on beaver feeding project locally here, but kind of gives a really good picture carousel of what they were doing out in the field and get people more interested and more understanding of what we do on a day-to-day basis. Museum education is the same way. Homeschool education is hugely popular, but it's also niche for a niche audience. And by publishing this, we not only are able to tell the story of we offer these really cool programs for the specific audience, but it gets people interested in other stuff that we might offer, and we can do a lot of great follow-up with that. A lot of people don't realize our education department not only educates kids, but they educate adults and fellow colleagues. Last year, they went to the VAST conference, which is the Virginia Association of Science Teachers up in Alexandria, and they presented a program on the power of using real museum specimens to aid programming. So it's one of those things, we do education programs at the museum, but maybe not know how involved our educators really are statewide. And then, of course, exhibits and operations. everybody sees the Stegosaurus when they walk in. Everybody loves that. But how did it get there? What's involved in putting up a Stegosaurus in a museum? It's a story that we can't really tell otherwise. We could bury it on the website where you have to actively look for it. But by sharing it with our social media audiences, we're able to really bring forth what goes on at the museum on a day-to-day basis in a really unique way. Something as simple as changing the decal. If you all noticed when you came in today, the Diplodocus decal on the front of the building is missing. We took that down and we're going to be replacing it. It hasn't been decided what we're going to be replacing it with, but just a simple post asking people for their suggestions. And it turns out quite a few people are very, very opinionated on what they think we should be putting up there, ranging from another dinosaur to something unique to Virginia. And then, of course, something like dusting dinosaurs. It's something that most people don't think about. In fact, we didn't really think about it too often ourselves. But we're able to show a little behind the scenes of what it takes to upkeep a museum. And that's one of the other stories that we're able to tell that people will really enjoy. And of course, before I can move on, I just would make sure that folks know that we are also focusing on storytelling as far as tying it into current events. So one of the new social media series, I should say, that we're bringing back is Tales of Ancient Life with our curator of paleontology, associate curator of paleontology, Dr. Adam Pritchard. He's going to be highlighting certain specimens in the collections that don't get displayed often, but we're looking for angles to tie that into current events, current research, other dinosaur findings that are happening around the world to build some relevance for the museum. But when you all hear about social media, mostly what you're hearing about is how we use it for to pretty much drive attendance, audience growth, as well as revenue. By promoting our festivals, we have tremendously grown our audiences. We've finally been able to penetrate markets further out from the Martinsville, Henry County, and the very immediate surrounding region. We routinely get folks from 50 plus miles away to attend these events, and a lot of that has to do with the programming that our staff puts on for these festivals. It's of very much interest to a lot of people, but this growth wouldn't have been possible without our ability to use social media. And then, of course, when we do our social media advertising, we also follow it up with behind the scenes. So this right here is just a few images of our staff pinning some insects, getting ready for our bug festival, our bug day that happened back in February. Real quick, one of the big benefits of social media is our ability to pinpoint audiences. No other platforms, traditional platforms, give us this ability. I've used this example for homeschooling, a very, very specific audience, but with Instagram and Facebook, we're able to drill down not just the mile radius from the museum that we want to reach, but very specific people with specific interests. I highlighted this one because showing how big tech can compromise your privacy pretty well. If you read carefully, it says this group of people have expressed an interest in or like pages related to homeschool education. This could be not just something you put on your profile, but if you clicked on a link regarding homeschooling, you're probably part of this group that advertisers like myself can pull from. And finally, I just want to lay out kind of what we've seen using social media as a growth mechanism for the museum. I use both the festivals that we have held the most since 2009, Reptile Festival and Dino Festival, and it pretty much shows a steady increase in growth. I shaded the different areas to kind of give you an example of 2009 to 2013. We were routinely getting 500 or less people for these major events, very negligible. As you see that the growth comes in during the blink period between 2011 and 12, we really started focusing on social media and growing our audiences and using that as a mechanism to reach new audiences. And the yellow shade shows the growth when we were organically reaching people, meaning reaching people simply by posting stuff on our social media sites. The blue is when it really took off, and this is when we pretty much diverted funds from general tradition marketing, not all of them, but quite a few, to social media, and it took off from there. It allowed us to like I said earlier, penetrate penetrate areas that we never had any real hope to penetrate without social media. And the growth has pretty much continued. It's leveled off a little bit in recent years, but we feel there's quite a few different mechanisms we can use to raise that back up. I know that was a pretty broad overview of everything that we're doing, but if you have any questions or have any suggestions, I'd be more than happy to either answer questions now or talk to you after the meeting.
Zach, does anyone have any questions for Zach or anything you want to comment or share?
I don't want. Okay. Hi, Zach. Catherine McGuire. Thank you for the great presentation. The only thing that I didn't hear you talk about was YouTube in all of this. You know, there's a focus on Facebook and Instagram, and YouTube, just by way of percentage market, it has a larger adult reach. YouTube has a larger adult reach than Facebook. And you also mentioned, just by putting other details out there, as you mentioned homeschooling. And one of the biggest growing areas on YouTube are YouTube video shorts, like short videos, educational videos. And I'm just wondering if the museum is pursuing YouTube, because the other advantage with YouTube is that you, because of the connection to the Google platform, you show up in the Google searches, right? And then you can elevate your position in the Google searches, like on natural history or what have you. I'm just wondering if you've pursued YouTube yet.
We do have a YouTube channel. To be completely honest, it is not a focus of ours, and it was during the pandemic when everybody staff-wise was creating content, and we were able to create some really good stuff. It is something that we need to bring back as far as more of a focus, and like you said, adult audiences, and it is probably the lead. I believe Pew Research says it is the leading social media platform in general. But yes, that's definitely something that we will be implementing more heading into the future.
Well, that's government. Yeah, well, excuse me. Is it, I'm thinking, would the museum be open to, some of their posts saying they're with maybe a sponsor or a business that we have already to get the budget, to extend the budget and get posts paid for?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed all of that, didn't catch all of that. One thing we do is we do a sponsor post for Reptile Festival. One of our sponsors, Brightspeed, did give a couple tickets for us to give away, and it's a courtesy. We made a post specifically mentioning that and to draw interest in Reptile Festival, but also give a shout out to our sponsors. Yes, long story short, we can implement sponsorships even more than we have been doing, and we are definitely open to suggestions on doing that.
Side, their viewers and what's the speed or?
Cool, good work, Zach.
Yeah,
Like that graph too. I haven't seen that before. That's a good breakdown.
thank
Well, I
you.
appreciate your time, everybody.
Yeah, sure. Well, as a fellow communicator, there are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We all have the same amount of time, regardless of who we are, where we live, or how much money we have. And I know that you can only do but so much. And I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in the intention behind the storytelling. I'm a big supporter of quality metrics and not vanity metrics. I know you can pay for likes, and they can come from another country and never step foot in the Commonwealth. So I just appreciate the quality and intention behind the post very much.
Thank you very much, Melanie.
Okay, we are going to move. And let me also say, if anyone has feedback, it certainly doesn't need to stick to these 4 quarterly meetings. Staff appreciate feedback and input, and that can certainly go through Joe or your committee chairs, like at any time, not just today. All right, we'll move to the consent agenda. This includes treasurer's report, the 26-27 budget, facilities report, and Waynesboro advocacy report. Are there any items staff or trustees would like to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion? or any items you want to discuss before we vote?
I do believe we have to vote on the 2027 fiscal year 2027 budget. So the fiscal year 2027 budget was presented by Jonathan at last meeting, just for informational purposes. But as is tradition, at each May meeting, we vote on the next fiscal year's budget. Nothing has changed. Jonathan, do you have any updates since the since the February meeting?
No updates. No, as Dr. Clark pointed out earlier, no, the legislature hasn't approved the budget yet. So there's currently approval, motion to approve with the kind understanding that the budget hasn't been officially approved yet.
So yeah, that's a good caveat. We fully expect that we're going to have a budget that is very similar to this current year's budget. It's just that we're taking into account the proposed 3% cost of living increase by staff, or for staff, I should say. And then I think there were also a couple of slight increases compared to this fiscal year for interagency services.
Yes.
So
the Senate and House versions as they stand now, is the museum funded equally in those, or is there one that's so?
We took the most optimistic look at a 3% cost of living adjustment.
To our knowledge, that's the only difference.
Okay.
The budget amendment request that was in the packet for trying to figure out what page is on that. I'm not seeing it. It's like 70,000. That's for the current year. Or is that before? Okay. So
this fiscal year that was approved.
So did that get added in at some point? Okay. Cool. I just want to make sure that wasn't something we had to look for.
Yeah,
So we're saying, Joe, we need to take separate action. The can't be included as part of the consent agenda.
I think you need a motion and a second and a vote on approving the 2027 budget. So at Jonathan's report, you have the current fiscal year leading up to March, or the end of the third quarter, and then following that is a simplified 2027 budget.
Okay, so is there a motion to remove the or just to approve the 26-27 budget as was shared with us?
Sure.
Thank you. Is there a second? You all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So that leaves the treasurer's report, facilities report, and Waynesboro advocacy report as part of the consent agenda.
Okay. So I would like to call out some details to the facilities report, because I think this is important. So just to tee things up, we still call this the new building that we're sitting in, because Douglas Avenue was built in 1929. All that said, this is now we're in our 20th year of operation, and just like any building, stuff goes bad all at once. So Tim King, who unfortunately got called away, so he cannot be here, but he and his team have been very busy working to maintain the building and so forth. We have one of our newest trustees, Dick Bratcher, who has been working directly with Tim, and Jonathan is our Virginia certified construction officer, working with him as well, to come up with a strategic plan that we're going to ask Dick to kind of describe what that's going to look like. And the reason I definitely wanted this talked about is that at our May 15th, 2027 board retreat, that'll be 2 years into our strategic plan. I think we ought to add a line to it that is the building maintenance strategic plan. So Dick, I'm going to pass the baton over to you.
Sure, and thank you for the introduction there. When I first joined the board, one of the things that I did was, of course, to pick up the current strategic plan and look through it and review it from my standpoint of having been in facilities management for some years. And what I noted was that strategic plan, there were a lot of strategies that involved the facilities or relied upon the facilities. But what I didn't see was thinking about the facilities in a strategic way. And what Joe and Tim and I and Jonathan are talking about is looking at our facilities in a new way and trying to develop some strategies that will maximize the adequacy of the facility to support, what the future operational needs are of the museum. I mean, it's important to keep things up and running now, but also we need to think about what's coming down the road. Keeping the facilities operating at a maximum effectiveness and efficiency is going to make what happens on a day-to-day basis better. It's going to help reduce costs. So, that's a very important part is how do we keep the facilities running at their maximum efficiency? Another thing to think about is we're going to be thinking about is, to the extent possible, how can we predict what the future costs might be related to maintaining the facilities? And another thing that jumped out at me in the strategic plan was that there is a desire to plan for future space requirements, trying to stay ahead of the game related to what kinds of facilities are we going to be needing. And as Dr. Kuiper pointed out, the Starling Avenue building, the new building, is 20-some years old. That's 90,000 square feet. Well, Douglas Avenue is coming on board again. It's an older facility. That's at about 35,000 square feet. The Waynesboro campus is making progress. That's going to be another 29,000 square feet coming online. And then beyond that, the strategic plan and some of the discussions that I've heard envision the potential of maybe some additions there in and around Starling, and then the connection with Wilson Park. So there's a lot coming on board and coming down the pike related to the facilities, and kind of rethinking how we're approaching our facilities. I think now's the time. Let's get out in front of the curve and move into a more proactive stance rather than a reactive stance. And I do want to make a statement here. The building and ground staff and Tim, these guys are top notch. I had a chance to tour the facilities with Tim and some of his staff, and you've got a great team. And I'm just trying to, maybe, help them think a little differently so that maybe their jobs will be a little easier in the future. But, what we're looking at right now is, again, moving from a more reactive stance to a proactive, preventive stance for maintenance. And what that really entails is first figuring out what it is we have. And we've got lots of documents. We've got construction drawings of the Starling building. We've got construction drawings and data coming in Douglas Avenue. We've got construction drawings from the Waynesboro facility. What we don't have right now is kind of a core inventory, if you will, of those pieces of equipment, the devices, the other things that require regular maintenance. So that's this first step, is doing an inventory, saying, okay, what do we have? Then reviewing that to say, okay, which pieces of these of equipment and which devices and fixtures require regular maintenance. As we all have automobiles, and what we know is that if we don't change the oil on a regular basis, we're asking for trouble down the line. And so, what we're doing now is going back and saying, okay, what is it we've got? And what are those things like oil change, filter change, that kind of thing? What needs to be done, and how often does it need to be done? And Tim and I think Joel have already started that, and I think they're making some good progress on it. Next step will be to set maintenance schedules and assign responsibilities. And then, potentially look to see if there's any tools that are available out on the market that can help them in their day-to-day activities. So kind of, those are the the things that we're looking at right now is the preventive maintenance. In the future, space management and planning is going to be an area that we've discussed that we may want to roll into a strategic plan. And that's going to be doing things like looking at what our spaces are, what's the adequacy of those spaces, what's their condition, and then reflecting how they will support future needs, and then use that as a platform for planning out whatever kind of capital improvements we may need to do in the future. So those are the basic core things that we've been discussing right now, and I'm really pleased with the progress we've made. I think Joe and his team are doing a great job.
And thanks very much. And all the credit goes to Tim King and Joel Clifton for working with you. So with Dick's guidance at the retreat 1 year from today, we will be making a recommendation to the Board of Trustees that we include an addendum to our strategic plan that's a line item for simply the building strategic plan that we'll be developing over the next year.
All right, thank you. I mean, I feel like I need that for my vehicle and all that. And it's just, I appreciate the time that you and staff have taken to look at that. That's not something I like looking at. So someone has to like that and think about that. And then just a reminder that this new building is 20 years old. And as we look at again the budget from the state, and we're still at 08 funding, and the increase of everything, and just really thinking strategically about investments down the road and things that we can do to keep this space up. I just really appreciate it. It all goes together, and it will be a great addition to our strategic plan.
Yeah, the convenience of the new building is done. It really is. I mean, excuse me. Tim and his team have done really well. They're very assiduous with ensuring that the building is as good as it was 20 years ago, but there are just things that wear out, so that's the reason for this conversation.
All right, thank you so much for that. If there's nothing else to make note of, then I'll ask for a motion for the consent agenda, those 3 items as presented, to approve it.
So,
Second.
All right, any discussion on those 3 items? All right, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, perfect. So that motion carries, and we've already approved the budget ahead of that. For the nominating committee report, the proposed 26-27 slate of officers was presented at our February meeting. We have 1 vacancy, which has been updated. So the updates would include that Lauren Hall would be vice chair and Sarah Bowman as secretary. Is there a motion to approve the slate as presented in your packet?
So moved.
And second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so that motion carries. Thank you. All right, next I'd like to invite Ben Williams to share an update from the research and collections report, including anything else for consideration.
Before we all in on our research and collections committee meetings.
Hey, Ben, since we have the owl, why don't you stand over in front of the monitor so the folks online can see you as well?
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we shouldn't punish them that way, but it's really
You're very small, don't worry.
good. Yeah, I'll give you all an update on our research and collections committee meeting this morning. This was more of an informational session. We got to meet our new board member, Catherine McGuire, which is very nice. The main topic of discussion today is the situation we came across with a historic kitchen facility at a former plantation house that is now owned by Carter Benton Trust. It's about 5 minutes from the museum. And Hayden provided an update on this. I'm going to kind of attempt to briefly summarize what he explained. If I miss anything, Joe, please feel free to jump in. But essentially, Carter Bank and Trust purchased this property, and it had on it a separate external kitchen. I believe dating back to the 1830s. And this facility is in a terrible state of disrepair. So Carter Bank and Trust reached out to us about seeing if it's something that we would be interested in taking on as a museum. They'd be exploring completely renovating or at the very least stabilizing the structure. And it had some work done by other archaeologists, architects who have gone out to sort of survey the site, see how things stood with it present. Unfortunately, according to Dr. Bassett, it's just in a terrible state of disrepair to the point where, frankly, he said having seen it 2 years ago, he was amazed it was still standing at all. It is a unique site. There is a historical marker at the site for the entire plantation, not specifically for this kitchen. Based on Dr. Bassett and his team's survey, they sort of came to the conclusion that number one, this is probably a project beyond the scope of our institution. Carter Bank and Trust seems to feel it may be beyond their scope as well as far as complete restoration of the facility. But what we are going to do is work with them for any grants they might seek or in collaboration with the Fayette Area Historical Initiative locally. If they have some interest in helping preserve this site, we'll be happy to help them as technical consultants. And but unfortunately, it is in a terrible state of disrepair. But going to help it any further here.
And incidentally, Dr. Nash agrees with this assessment. So we've been working with her as well as Hayden, our here locally.
That is my update.
All right. I think we have appointments.
Yes.
I have to. Right. All right. Okay. Yeah. Since this disasters, do you mind if I just make a statement?
That's probably fine.
Oh, we have a question.
Looking for this.
I'm not.
Okay.
This is awesome.
Okay.
So, so I would like to off the cuff make a statement here. So, as I think all of you know, we're losing a few of our trustees as they are rolling off. Emma, is not seeking reappointment. We'll talk about that later. And Lisa Carter, who's been our past chair and everything, she's rolling off as well. And we're going to again discuss that later. But specific to the Research and Collections Committee, I also want to point out that we're losing our now past chair of Research and Collections, Dr. Art Evans. So Art's been with the museum since 2000 as a research associate. During that time, he worked first with Dr. Richard Hoffman for at least a decade, if not more. 13 years. Yeah, and even during that time, they jointly went out and did collecting that built up our reference collection. And Art, as a beetle expert, amongst other things, has contributed thousands of specimens to the museum's collection. And more than that, he went through materials that were undetermined. And so, in other words, he identified undetermined materials, and those are now properly housed within the museum as part of the Virginia Beetle Project, or the Beetles Virginia Project, I should say. And so he's done that before. He's been a great colleague for our entomologists, Dr. Cal Ivanov, Dr. Jackson Means, and Miss Liberty Hightower, and everything they've done. And so I'm very pleased to pass the baton over to Melanie, because we would like to honor Art's contributions to the museum in the past, in the present, and going forward.
Well, thank you for that. So I'll just share, Art, you are a true champion for research and collections. And that voice as chair will be missed and as a trustee. But we are really excited to acknowledge you and appoint you as a senior fellow here at the Museum of Natural History in recognition of your distinguished scientific achievement and contributions to research supporting the mission Virginia Museum of Natural History. And as much as you champion for research collections, I have also seen you a lot of Friday and Saturdays at our education outreach events that Zach just shared in the research collections space, just passing on that love for natural history. And so you touch all areas with your support and just with who you are. And so we are, like, I have a motion, if we could, to approve Art as a senior fellow here at the Museum of Natural History.
Here.
Second. All right, all in favor?
Nice.
And that's if you wanted to. Go through,
Let's do it during a break.
okay, let's do it during the break. Let's make sure we get a picture.
And so you said I didn't have to prepare anything today. Well, guess what? Now we're putting you on the spot. Is that okay? Yeah, you want to share anything?
Well, I just want to say it's been my voice is gone. Honor to serve this museum, and I very much love being a part of the museum. When I first moved to Virginia in 2000, I was trying to find out who the other entomologists were, and everybody said, "Have you met Richard Hoffman?" So I came here for the first time. Actually, it was at the old building in June of 2000, and spent 3 hours with Richard, just hit it off. Went home with 18 drawers of unidentified beetles and a microscope that he kindly loaned me, put me to work right away. And that sort of set the tone. And it's been a real privilege for me to be part of the museum, not only as a research associate, but also as a trustee. I was very honored to be appointed by Governor McAuliffe. And I'm a museum brat. I've always loved collections. I worked in the education division at the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles for 10 years. So I've consulted on exhibits. So I've come at this whole business from a variety of directions. And I really appreciate what this institution does, the dedication of these people who work here, who are honestly given so little and do so much, is impressive. And I want to leave the idea that Lisa mentioned just a moment ago. So the state support for this institution has not changed in almost 20 years. It's a difficult position. We're lucky to be here at all sometimes, but it creates some challenges and hopefully some opportunities down the road. Retention of staff and attracting staff, it will always be a challenge here for many reasons. And so whatever you can do as individuals to lend your voice to legislative initiatives, to talking amongst yourselves, to developing future strategic plans that support the staff, not only individually, but also the programs that they are in charge of. I've always been partial to research and collections because if you read the Virginia Code, and I hope you will, and I already have, you'll see that research and collections is the engine that makes this museum go. It is the reason for this museum exists. And I don't mean to slight education and exhibits in the least. Those activities of the museum are incredibly important to help present and interpret the research and the collections that are housed here. So they're all very much part of the whole. Very excited to see the expansion of the rebuilding of the Douglas Avenue facility, the old building. Because we're running out of space. In some aspects of the collections, we are out of space. So these things are important to consider. And I'm very glad to hear that serious consideration is going forward in terms of developing a plan for these buildings and housing collections and programs here. I'm going on. Thank you so much. This is a real honor for me.
And Art, I also want to point out, as we're being very humble over there, there's only been 3 other people appointed as senior fellows to this institution. Dr. Bill Shear, who's a millipede expert and worked very closely with Dr. Hoffman, Dr. Mitchell Bird, an expert in conservation biology at William & Mary, and our founding director, Dr. Noel Boaz. So that's it, and so these are giving away very sparingly, and it's with a lot of pleasure that we get to add you to that list, Art.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Next, Nathan is going to present our Education and Public Programs report.
Yes, thank you. This morning, I'd just like to point out that our information for our committee and the exhibit subcommittee is in pages 83 and 84 of the packet. One of the highlights is that there's a new format for presenting the data in terms of what Christy and her team are doing for each and at the museum program. So it's been modified to sort of be a little bit more visually interesting. We're no longer showing a column where we're no longer virtual sessions showing zeros across the board. So it's not really, we're not really doing those anymore. They're still offered, but there's not really much interest in them, especially post-pandemic. The numbers continue to trend in a positive manner, maybe a little bit flat, but still overall, the number of programs and the number of people being served continues to grow year to year. We did have a big spike in February because if anybody was local, maybe even the whole state, we had a bunch of weather that stuck around, snow that stuck on the ground for a long time. So a lot of those programs, Christy and her team had to really quickly shift from December and January into February. So that's why you'll see that spike there on page 84. One thing I did want to point out that I really was impressed with sort of the geographic reach we continue to have. I know you see these things in the advancement report or when you hear about our big events, but there was an astronomy themed sleepover in the quarter as students were from Charlottesville. There was a fossil themed sleepover. Those were Boy Scouts or Scouts from Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's not just the footprint of the museum. It's pretty expansive in terms of who we offer our services to. Christy pointed out that they're working with scheduling programs with the library statewide for the 2026 summer reading program called Unearth a Story Fossils. They've already scheduled over 45 fossil programs with 17 different library systems. So it sounds like they will continue to be busy. Summer also features all their summer camps. So if you know anybody local or even like semi-local that's interested in them, although they're filling up fast, there's some information about those as well. And then we got a pretty extensive update on some of the things happening with exhibits. I met Lila last meeting for the new exhibits program project. She's already been here 6 months somehow. But she already mentioned that there was a work done around the American 250 exhibit, which some of you might have seen tied up with the event with that. And preparation for the Young Explorer Center continues to happen. So there's going to be some shifting of spaces that happen. I had to make sure I knew where everything was. We talked about it this morning, but it sounds like the original plan was to have it in the library. Now that's shifted to where the temporary exhibit space will be where the Young Explorer Center is, and the temporary exhibit space will move to where the library was. So all that requires a lot of planning and logistics, and so her and her team are working on that. But yeah, if you have any other questions, just check out the packets, 83 and 84 pages. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's a great segue too. And I do want to thank Christy and her team because it's all about also inspiring future scientists and showing them the love that we have collectively for natural history. But that's a great segue. Before we continue with Joe's report, I'd like to take a brief break so that we can tour spaces. This will be on the main level where we are doing the renovation, so you can just see it firsthand. And if you need a restroom break, that would be perfectly fine. And we will be back here at 11:07. Got it? I don't know why I picked that. 11:07.
I'm setting an alarm.
11:07.
If we could just migrate to the Hall of Ancient Life by the Acrocampsaurus, we'll meet you up there in 5 minutes. And we'll do a quick tour of the new facility. Well, proposed facilities. Have a dedicated space for the other research. There's a few things here already.
But there's not any in space.
It's like you're on our. So there, I was going to pay attention to the sun, but it's just. I said it. I swear.
Other, you know, it's.
Yes.
You means.
Engage. So.
We'll be, so, again, so we'll get back on that.
Hi, Dave, Sarah, and Lisa. We'll be back in just a few minutes, so see you soon.
Trying to remember what day it is. Thank you so much. This is over this time of year.
So not, this privately goes.
Yes. Yes. In the school district? Yes, in the county, but I also, what's all? So visitors.
So just, where I'm right now. How many years?
It's different. I should call it. But
Saturday.
the cups everywhere. It's like flavor. Yeah. Some of the documentation. Like he had done the flashing documentation, and some other agency had done documentation. That might be correct, but if not, I'll ask him.
That even when the building is gone, there's still. I'm sorry, but anyway, I just wanted to, I'm sure maybe he's done, but if I'll think of that guy's name, he's a regional person for them, so I'm sure he traveled, he covers South. Yeah.
I mean, I see like, there's like, yes, I see cockroaches. Okay, starts this chip. Okay, well, why is it, the smell? Oh, somebody take. Which one is on, not when you get out of here. Yeah. Don't take. Like, sits it in a. Like, should we like to, that's for anything. Let's see, yeah, that's the one. These offers compared to other cockroaches.
Yes. Being on the floor just thought it would be a lot more comfortable with a snake I had to deal with my yard here.
Yeah, here, and the snake over here.
You say you had to deal with it, what do you mean?
It was a,
Yeah, he's alive.
Okay.
because I figured out, because I'm really, how would I grade it as a total engineer? Yeah, and it was, I don't know. It's nobody.
There's something now where I think you can take a picture and like somewhat the internet will tell you something.
Like AI.
It's built in on the photo app.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta go in the picture, because I first was confident, I was like, yeah. You know, and I like stepped off from it. And then I realized that's why I don't have any Mexican. I was stupid get one. That's fun. It's fun to side conversation. But he did spook me. I was trying to be able to find things out there. He's just
How long?
I wish for no mistake.
I'm checking your. Let's explain it now.
Why did you just laugh?
Let's get know you shit. It's like, you know.
And you just left him alone. That's dealing with, right?
Yeah, he's still here.
Right, okay, please.
That would have used most of a lot of friends saying, since it's not, we were there.
Yeah, great.
Like that, I mean, like. We have.
It's fine. There's all the work. Together. We're going to do this alteration. Sure, that they laugh. Sure.
Yeah. Making it.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thank you for those online for allowing us to take that break. That was super helpful. And just as a reminder, and I don't think we can ever repeat it enough, that Young Explorers Center is possible because of a donation made to the foundation of over $4.4 million by Frank Mariels, who we have photos of, and believe he came here once with his young nephews in this facility that's now 20 years old. And that interaction impacted him enough to leave that to the museum, the foundation. So we look forward to opening that, celebrating his gift to us. So I just wanted to mention that. And like I said, I think you can't repeat that enough. So I'd like to move to Joe's executive director.
Yeah, we're gonna start with budget, so I'll kind of jump around a little bit, the actual agenda. So Jonathan, if I can count on you to start with an overview, as we've already kind of talked about a little bit about the upcoming budget, but also let's then segue into our proposed request upcoming of the county.
So jumping in already, moving forward, into next fiscal year, switching start in August. So, this staff will work on our items, that are under request. So the capital construction, funding will go in August, so through a project. And then in September, we start our, kind of line item adjustments. So we were gonna, fund a portion of operations outside of what our normal funding is, that is something. So looking forward to input on that from the board as well as advocacy and enrichment. So strategizing and putting a plan together and looking forward to that in the August.
Yes, and so related to that, what Jonathan's going to share with the full board, or shared through Jennifer, so keep an eye out for email either from Jonathan and or Jennifer. He's put together a couple of analyses One, it shows that our annual appropriation right now is just about equal finally to what we got in 2008, right? So that I think tells a story unto itself. But don't forget that $3.8 million or so would be worth over $5 million today, right? So we're far short of what we should be getting if we had been funded similarly to 2008. There's a steep decline over the years, followed by a gradual, trend of upward growth. The second thing, and we're not speaking negatively of any fellow agency, but when you look at our staff size versus appropriation, again, Jonathan will share his analysis. We are spending significantly less per staffer on average compared to similar agencies. When I say similar, it might be similar by mission, be similar by size. It doesn't matter. We're still far below that. So Jonathan also has in that analysis a series of data points that show the increase over the last how long over the last 5 years, the increase in just what it costs to do business, contractors, utilities, wages, everything that we do here all requires more money now than it had just a short time ago. So it is time to make the request, and we're going to share a strategy with you that we can tweak depending on the board's pleasure to advocate for a significant increase in our somewhere in the range. And when I say significant, I'm still talking like if we can just get somewhere in the order of 5 to 10% of an increase in our budget for day-to-day operations, that will be awesome, because right now for the last 2 months, Jonathan and his team has been watching everything, reporting to me daily about requests for spending, because we want to make sure we're obligated to spend our budget and no more, right? The foundation has been a godsend. They have been doing every year. It seems like they're getting better at what they do. That has been our margin for success in terms of them funding all that we do mission-wise. So whether it's research, exhibits, education, the funds they provide allow us to do that. If we just had the appropriation, we could exist, we could open to the public, probably not a lot more. So you'll be hearing more about this, but we need to be prepared to make that request to the Commonwealth for a specific percentage increase in our appropriation. So that way we're looking at the budget of the future and not just the budget of next year. So, and Jonathan, August, we should have that done.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll be ready to go on this. Secretary of Education seems very positive.
Yes.
For reports going in. So as you guys are aware of the budget process, we start with submission to request funding to be added to the governor's budget through the Secretary of Education. And then to follow up to that process, that budget will go out in December, mid-December, and then we'll follow up again with our legislators, local and statewide, to continue the increase funding there.
And we need your voice in that. Nobody in Richmond wants to hear from an agency head or a CFO.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, ma'am.
Question. So if you go back, this is like decades. I'm not sure what the year is, but the museum, as well as a lot of other museums, were not under Department of Education. They were natural resources in that budget years ago. And so obviously looking at the pressures and all the years that have passed with no budget increase, is there any thought been given to portions of the museum, like the collections, or some of that going back, or parts of it going under natural resources? So you're double dipping, that's a legislative term, so to speak. So
funny enough, I was on the job 42 days, and we were in for the natural resources to education. So this happens all the time. We have found it very advantageous to be in the Secretary of Education, only because their budget is so large. It's billions of dollars versus 100 million in natural resources. So when you're asking a request, there's 3% of our budget. It's very minimal to the overall. We have had success in the past over 6 years here. I think we've requested 700,000 and maybe received 200,000. So we have had some minor successes along the way. It's just with our increased revenues that we're seeing, that we discussed, with the general science work going on here with Citronelle, his knowledge, and we just feel like we're poised in a position to say we are doing great things, and we want to expand that through this funding. So.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a question that's never been asked before. I've never thought to ask, can we somehow take advantage of our historic place in natural
Right,
resources?
and that's and that just dawned on me after doing the research and collection stuff, thinking, okay, that is education, absolutely, but it also is very much natural resources of that line.
And just as background, we do currently receive funds on a granting basis through Department of Historic and Cultural Resources. And Christy, hasn't education historically also received funds like through DCR, DWR, something like that?
Yes, in the years past, with various projects.
Yeah, so we have a history, and I think it's worth exploring to at least answer the question, is that a possibility?
Or if it, I mean, even getting us several $100,000 out of that, those other budget streams.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
You know, another possibility, if we're going that route, is that a significant amount of specimens come in through DCR.
Exactly.
And there's no support there, and there's no attempt to make it an official kind of thing. I don't know. I don't think there are many other state agencies that regularly contribute material, but the Natural Heritage Division at DCR is a regular contributor, and a significant portion of that collection comes directly from that department.
What does a bug drawer cost these days?
$90.
$90, and we just not long ago
Pens,
one.
each pen is about 7-8 cents.
Yeah, and we just received a collection of, was it 30-some thousand bees from DCR?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can you put 200 in a drawer? So you do the math, you can figure just the logistics.
Well, you've got the unit trays too, the little boxes.
Absolutely.
Inside, those are all anywhere depending on the size, $1.50 to $4 each.
Yeah,
But the
Liberty's
value,
fine.
the value of the DCR relationship is not being rewarded or supported. So that's
something that's really important. Because, you know, is there a factual, less qualitative thing that we do on a daily basis that we get built? Pieces of plus through the state, which then money can go also there. If that makes sense. You know, we're already doing one thing, but you know, we need to preserve history of the state resources, and that's a totally different area. People want to do the same thing.
And Jonathan, I think we can calculate a cost per square foot of what it costs to maintain these collections for DCR, for historic and cultural resources, etc. So yeah, all right, we'll execute on that. That is part of our discussion.
Actually, building on the different revenue sources, if there's any types of apprenticeships or internships that you will do, that's Department of Labor funds.
That's right.
And they have.
Well, there's a trend. The money's moved over there,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
It's great.
Okay, so it keeps from hitting a wall and asking questions.
Awesome. I think this all can go towards the argument.
Okay. So is that something you or Jonathan could update us about possibly before all the next meeting? Just the thought of, okay.
Right after this meeting, I want Jonathan to share his report, but now that we're talking the way we're talking, I like the way it's going. We can add more details like cost per square foot, what other agencies are we supporting, etc., and see if we can open that door that Catherine's bringing up and go the route that Will's suggesting.
We're doing more than one thing here.
Yeah.
Well, if you're and I mean, if it's bees and pollinators, you've got the entire agricultural juggernaut of a industry who might be behind you saying, yeah, we support that. Let's get more money for research dollars.
And when other state agencies support state agency, a lot of times they send a bill. Yeah. So
We've got a few.
right, y'all, but if you guys ever build other people, like, technically story their specimens and their and that's
VX might have resources, you know, to contribute toward the pollinator work that DCR is doing through Heritage. So, yeah.
I think the only thing that I can remember offhand that we've charged another agency for is the use of our de-infestation facility. We've taken Museum of Fine Arts materials and ran them for a few weeks in the CO2 chamber. That's probably it. So, yeah, again, we will share all this shortly. So, okay, well, anyway, I think that's going to be an important part of our mission over the upcoming months is to put together that argument. It will, of course, be mid-biennium. If we're not successful or minimally successful, then it will be prepared to recycle that when the new biennial budget is being made. But I think there is value in making the request now. So, Jonathan, thank you. Awesome. All right. I wanted to cover the meeting with Secretary Smith. One thing I will say, we had the longest commute. So myself and Jonathan and Brian and Christy were sitting in the meeting room when one of the staffers came in. This is Dr. Dr. Kate Maxlow. She's senior advisor to the Secretary of Education. And when we introduced ourselves, she already knew about what we were doing, including VMNH Waynesboro. Right. So they are on top of things. Dr. Maxlow is going to be our primary contact, but during Dr. Smith's presentation on how he sees things going in the future, he shared a document, which if anybody wants to let me know, I'm happy to share it with you. They put together essentially their own strategic plan. They talk about 3 horizons. The first horizon being simple things we can do just by maybe shifting money around or something to make education in the Commonwealth better. The second horizon are bigger things that might require some legislative assistance, such as approval of new full-time staff to a particular project. And then lastly, there's the third horizon, which are big picture, big things they want to do. And they seem really keen on these. So that's going to be VMNH Wings, and they've asked for agencies to submit by the end of the month the projects that we want to work on or are working on that fit within each of these horizons. For Horizon 3, VMNH Waynesboro, the Mariel's Young Explorer Center, because we know we can open it up, but to really be truly effective, we need programming and staff to go in there to support Christy and her team. So that is going to be either an H2 or an H3, Horizon 1 or Horizon 2 or Horizon 3. There's also the Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab. The state has been kind to move some of the team from soft money over to O1 account. So that's awesome, but there's still more that can be done there. And then lastly, as far as Horizon 3, I had made mention that we used to, and this is 2013 when DOE cut funds to this, but we used to run the Virginia Science Standards Institute. These were did you have experience with that?
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, it was very popular.
Yes.
So it was 2 separate week-long residential experiences for teachers. If you're a teacher that took your science classes, or maybe you were a science major, it was a great refresher for you. It was all about Virginia Science SOLs. But it was really targeted at people who maybe didn't major in the sciences or maybe took the basic sciences, but are now teaching science in the classroom. And so they would walk out of that week-long program with new physical resources. They would go out with new information, and they would also go out with new confidence, right? And so every year it was filled. Everything was paid for. The teachers' travel, their residency, as well as all their materials and meals during that week period. And so this was held at Twin Lakes State Park and at Hungry Mother State Park, where they have residency or cabins, I guess. So, but it wasn't just museum curators, it was Department of Wildlife Resources, Conservation and Recreation, Marine Resources, Environmental Quality, that all descended on this. We've got university partners. And so these people got a quality program, and it was always filled and always paid for. So when I mentioned this to the secretary and to Dr. Maxlow, they both were very intrigued by it. So Dr. Maxlow is visiting on June 2nd. This might get tweaked, but we're expecting right now about 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on the 2nd. If anyone wants to come through a conversation, do a walkthrough with them, please join us on that day. So I think we're off to a good start with the new secretary. Secretary Guerrero was very supportive of us. I think that was awesome. You never know what kind of flavor of secretary you get in terms of support their foci. This seems to be a very hands-on secretary who wants to be involved, but secondly, they also want to make their impact on the Commonwealth. So I think this is the time to ask. If we want to do big things, this is the time to ask for big things.
So Joe, before you went into that meeting, I assume you did this, but I'll ask it. Did you do a deep dive on Kate Maxlow?
I didn't know her. She's a recent hire.
Right, but 10 years with Hampton School, she was a curriculum. She's a big curriculum person.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, I looked her up. But I was just thinking about, just making sure, knowing about how her ears work, when she's in the meeting. Like, it's when you're talking to people and you already know they are leaning in that direction because that's part of their DNA. Might be a
Please send me your
good
thoughts
idea.
on that and anybody else as well. But yes, after we met her, we of course, we all dove in and, got what background we can on her. But any other insights are going to be valuable. So,
Happy to.
and I know I'm stating the obvious here, but everybody who comes to this museum for the first time, they think they're going to some small town nature center or something, until they pull in the parking lot and they realize they were mistaken. So we had a great first meeting with the team there in Richmond. A very quick follow-up with a visit here, I think is going to be advantageous, and if we can apply what you're talking about.
I'll do my opposition research.
Oh, wow. Right. Looking forward to it. So please just let me know. Give us a heads up if you want to come and be part of that conversation. Pretty good down, Mindy.
As far as like that teacher workshop, you could actually just have like a project wild day, a project wet day, like, and so on, and like have different each,
Yeah. So Christy is well versed.
Yeah.
We actually have one at the end of the month.
Okay. Awesome.
Project Wild, Project Learning Tree combined.
Nice.
All right. So to move on, just kind of want to make mention of staffing. Dr. Jackson Roberts joins as our assistant curator of herpetology in a month. Then
About a month.
Yeah.
He is now in town. He's officially moved in.
Oh, good for him. All right. Yeah, he's already sending me pictures of things for me to identify from his backyard. So that's when you can tell someone's really moved in. As far as projects, CHML is active as ever. I know we haven't had a chance to talk about it a lot lately, but Ukraine and the civil war in Sudan are essentially long-term projects. But on a more positive side, there is a new grant coming in from Historic and Cultural Resources to do work on further Virginia Indian sites and whatnot. So that is still a very active program. All right, tell us about the collecting trip to the southeast, the far southeast. Yeah.
Cal and I left on April 30th and returned day before yesterday. We did a quick stop at a natural preserve in Georgia, just because it's an interesting sandhills habitat. They has sort of a mixture of some Florida elements and your typical southeastern stuff. And then we spent a week at Archbold Biological Station, which is a very storied biological station. I visited there for the first time 3 years ago and was itching to get back and was not disappointed. It was intense in terms of planning. We applied for collecting permits. We didn't just show up and collect stuff. We had to get written permission from several state agencies in Florida, but once we found out who to contact, it went fairly smoothly. And we got as far south as for all the keys.
Marathon? It's a marathon.
No, it's the third key, 2 keys past Key Largo, collecting at state parks, but it was very dry. They've been experiencing a drought since last year, so that really limited. But for those of you that aren't familiar, South Florida and South Texas, where we all visited last September, are the most 2 tropical places in the continental United States. And so you'll find things there that are found nowhere else in the country. They represent more neotropical elements, Mexican elements, Caribbean elements. And so that was our interest there. And the collecting still was productive. And we covered just a hair under 3,300 miles.
And so this is a great example of how our collections grow. Every lab has its own story, but this is the particular story for entomology. Incidentally, the keys are like from the 1950s, are like the classic site that was used to develop what is still considered modern understandings of biogeography, how species change as you move north or south or altitude wise or whatever. But that was so it's to me it's neat that we now have a better assemblage of reference specimens.
Of course, Cal focused on ants and everything else, and my focus was beetles. And I've got I didn't count, but I'm guessing between 3,000 and 4,000 specimens to process and then identify, which will be done by the end of the year. And then half of that material will come here, and the other half of it will stay.
We look forward to adding those accessions to our collection. Speaking of collections, Jackson Means, our Mariah pedologist, the millipede expert upstairs, he's received some specimens from the southeast United States, specifically collected from caves. So these are millipedes which fall within his wheelhouse. But he had to develop some novel techniques in which he just recently made a lot of progress in. So I think he's not just going to be, he was extracting genes that can now be sequenced in a useful way. In other words, these cryptic species, which are difficult to identify, we can begin to tell if they are new. Undoubtedly, these are going to be new species. There's just, no doubt about that. And so not only will we be publishing on that, but the techniques he developed can now be used by other scientists. So we're very, very excited for him and that progress. Noel Boaz and Adam Pritchard have been working on determining the provenance of one of our mastodons. So we have a partial mastodon skeleton, and it's been a journey. But as it turns out, they are at this point extremely confident that it is actually parts of the same mastodon that's on public display at Monticello, right? So what we believe happened, or what they've determined would have happened, is that Meriwether Lewis collected a mastodon from a place, I think it's called Big Lake State Park or Salt Lake State Park or something like that in Kentucky, brought it to Monticello, divided it in 3 pieces. There's a third at a museum in France, a third at Monticello, and a third with us, right? We never knew that before now. Now, I will just say, and I know this is public, I'll be careful, but Monticello, I mean, if somebody requests access to our collections, we're all over, right, Ben? That's part of our wheelhouse, right? But getting access to Monticello collections is a different process. So we're working through that. We have a molar. We would love to have access to their jawbone and see if that molar fits right within the jawbone, And so Dr. Boaz also wants to do measurements and other things. So we'll get there. Right, but that's coming, and it's kind of cool to think that we have Thomas Jefferson's mastodon here in the building. So more on that as progress is made. Tom, I knew he couldn't stay for the whole meeting, but he facilitated the transfer of a cold water aquarium system from JMU to us through interagency transfer. Our plan right now, never survived first contact with reality, is on the wall, going to the education center, go to the opposite wall. We want to put that there. It's got a very heavy base for stability, but we'll bolt it to the wall as well. It's a series of, I think, Ben, is it 20 aquaria?
What is it?
Okay, so it's like 20 systems that all can be managed separately or the same, however you want to set it up. But Dan River Basin Association would like to work with us to create public displays of the non-game fish of the Smith River that flows through here in Henry County.
Cool.
And so, yeah. So I think it'd be neat. So that'll be kind of a Dan River project, and our job is just simply to maintain the system. And these are not long-lived species. Every individual fish might last a couple of years, 3 years, something like that. But they will replenish the ambassador animals that we house there. So that's what the plan is right now. So maybe by August we'll see. We'll at least have a test run going. Hopefully at that point. And at this point, what I would like to do is turn things. Shout out to Christy and her team. You finished Homeschool Science and Engineering Academy.
Next Wednesday.
Oh, next Wednesday. All right, got one more.
Yeah.
And this is your first year running 2 sessions on the same day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
we've had such a overwhelming response last year to registrations. We created after session, basically repeating. So yeah.
Awesome.
But yes, one more.
Cool.
What age group?
So we break it into 3 age groups. We meet simultaneously down here. So we have ages 6 to 8 in one classroom, 9 to 11 in the other, and then ages 12 and up in this room. Yes.
You slept really good after it was done.
Yeah.
And don't forget, they're doing this with 3 people, right? So it's all impressive. So that's grown, it's doubled, and it doubled like a few years ago, and it's doubled again now. The reason we're running the 2 separate programs. And what I'd like to do now is to turn things over to Ryan for kind of an advancement report on the foundation's activities. Sure. And other things like events and so.
Yeah, so the foundation board met yesterday. We met, Joe and I were in there, and great meeting, provided similar updates. But a lot of great work going on in the advance report. I'll highlight the big picture stuff, and Will help me flow. But overall revenue is strong. So on the museum side specifically, combined revenues up 17% over last year. So that's obviously admissions, store revenue, but also things like publication sales, sort of small things. So great trends there. Visitation, of course, this is through the third quarter, through March 31st. So we're up 5% over last year, continuing to see that steady growth. No huge spikes and drops, which is great. Zip code distribution, again, very similar. 70% of visitors coming from outside Martinsville, Henry County. So that is further emphasized at festivals. So we have the science festivals, obviously, it draws huge crowds from North Carolina, Virginia, but also Reptile Festival. We had 7 other states represented. So that's great. We try to catch people as they come in if we have time. You know, where'd you come from? What brought you here? More and more often, people are coming just for the festival. Sometimes you get the pass through, visiting family, whatever, but it's become a destination. So then we feel the pressure, and we want to make sure they're good too. So it's all good. Working on grants and partnerships for a variety of things. So research, education, exhibits, working with Christy to make sure we have need-based scholarship support, working with curators on any federal or other grants they're working on, or the administrative side of it. And then things like festivals, obviously we want to schedule things out at least 2 years ideally. So that allows us to get partnerships, corporate support, the grants, the promotions that go with it. So that we've got a good cycle going, a good pipeline. So a lot of grants being implemented, pending, but also just upcoming that we have on the calendar. So a few of those are for Young Explorer Center. So we've got a couple of local or regional grants that we kind of aim for to further supplement Young Explorer Center. So that's going to come up in July. So it'll be here before we know it. As far as we've heard reports about Reptile Festival, so great crowd, over 2,500 visitors. It's turned out to be a record Reptile Festival in terms of revenue. So overall revenue, everything again, admission, store, but also t-shirt sales, sponsorships, things like that. And fiscal year 26 overall, so that wrapped up the festival schedule, represented a record in terms of overall festival revenue. So great news there. And then just kind of a random fact that we looked at April's visitation. So we're tracking all the data. This past April represented the second highest overall visitation for any April in the museum's history. So the only other April that had more people was the grand opening April in 2007. So then we looked further, was just the festival, and of course the festival helped, but it's not even the biggest in terms of Reptile Festival revenue or visitation. So it was just every day. It's every day, random Tuesdays, Thursdays, just steady visitation. So that's good. That's the trends we want to see. So there's always some stats to keep around, but that's great. Yeah, just overall, I think, continuing the momentum, working with Foundation Board, identifying prospects, working as far out as we can. So we're already looking 3 years out in terms of some of the grants. So yeah, happy to answer any questions. Like I said, that's the big picture, very big picture.
I'll add to the list of what's upcoming on the 28th of this month. So like two weeks or so. We're hosting the Chamber of Commerce's business after hours. And so we're going to have some staff there. They're going to talk about Reptile Festival. We're theming it internally as Reptile Fest Revisited to talk about how we've attracted people to the region and to paint the picture that these festivals are important for the communities, not just vibrancy, but also for its economic development.
Thanks.
Good. Thanks, Ryan. And I think, sorry. Yeah, I think that wraps up the director's report. Thank you.
Right, at this time, we have resolutions recognizing the service of several departing trustees who've been dedicated and contributed a lot to strengthen our museum as to where we are today. So I'd like to present resolutions for Lisa Carter, Dr. Art Evans, and Emma Ito. I'm gonna read these, and then I'll request a motion approval. The first is resolution of appreciation for Lisa Carter. Whereas Ms. Lisa Carter served on the Board of Trustees of the Virginia Museum of Natural History from 2016 to 2026. Ms. Carter served as Chair of the Board of Trustees from 2022 to 2024 and Vice Chair from 2024 to 2026. Whereas Ms. Carter provided expertise that inspired the initiation of the museum's diversity internship program, helped the museum with its green energy program, and assisted with the development of interpretive materials for the South River Preserve. Whereas Ms. Carter expertly provided strategy and advice to the staff and board regarding government relations within the Commonwealth. Ms. Carter contributed to strategic planning for the museum, ensuring an ambitious agenda ahead. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Virginia Museum of Natural History hereby express its appreciation and admiration for Ms. Lisa Carter's leadership and dedication to the museum's board, and look forward to her continued connection to the mission of the museum. I just want to go ahead and acknowledge her, clap for her, even y'all.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I have so enjoyed being on the board. And I feel like I've contributed with being able to fundraise through Dominion and, like you said, the diverse internship, the staff spotlight, the deep dives. And I guess more importantly, I feel like I've just made the museum a better place. But I've loved it too. And I've loved seeing the museum grow. The staff are wonderful. And I look forward to continuing to be involved as much as I can in any way that I can, even though it won't be officially. So good luck to everybody, and please reach out as you need me. I'm happy to help, and I will not be a stranger.
Lisa, looking forward to it.
Second resolution of appreciation for Dr. Art Evans, whereas Dr. Arthur Evans served on the Board of Trustees of the Virginia Museum of Natural History from 2016 to 2026. Dr. Evans served as chair of the board's Research and Collections Committee 2019 to 2026. Whereas Dr. Evans contributed significantly to entomology collections and tirelessly promoted the value of scientific collections. Dr. Evans worked closely with research and collection staff to set an ambitious agenda ahead to grow the museum's collections in both size and breadth, ensuring the museum remains the premier collections-based science institution in the Commonwealth. And whereas Dr. Evans contributed to strategic planning for the museum, including the need for enhanced collection storage capacity. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Virginia Museum of Natural History hereby express its appreciation and admiration for Dr. Evans' leadership and dedication to the museum's board, and look forward to his continued connection to the mission of the museum. Thank you. And a resolution of appreciation for Emma Ito, whereas Emma Ito served on the Board of Trustees of the Museum of Natural History from 2021 to 26. She ensured Virginia Museum Natural History engaged its mission to interpret Virginia's natural heritage within a global context in ways that are relevant to all citizens of the Commonwealth. She was an enthusiastic advocate for the museum across the Commonwealth and the Virginia General Assembly alike. Whereas Emma expertly provided advice and motivation to the staff and board regarding museum education efforts, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the museum hereby express its appreciation for her leadership and dedication to the museum's board, and look forward to her continued connection to the mission of the museum. I could get a motion to approve this. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. On behalf of the board and staff, just sincerely appreciate your time, leadership, and putting us in a place where we are today. Genuinely appreciate it. I'd like to open the floor for any additional discussion or announcements from any other trustees.
So I was in Charlotte last month and I was behind a car that had a license plate that I didn't recognize. So I took a picture of it and did some sleuthing and it said the Flora Fossil Museum, Flora, North Carolina. And it made me start to think, do we have a museum license plate here?
We talked about that. God, it has to be 10, 12, 13 years ago. And I'm not going to remember the particulars. Ryan, do you?
I do.
Okay. I remember it didn't go swimmingly.
So basically the way the process works, you fill out an application, you have to get so many signatures or pre-registrations to qualify for the production of it. It could be all, then offered to sure. So I forget the exact number, but it's pre-registrations.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of it as much as a revenue generator as more of an awareness.
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that until you mentioned it, That would be
So just the board pre-ordering one would be enough. Okay, a few more.
Hey there. We can check out the canvas if one.
If you like it.
It would just be fun to see somebody. I mean, at this point, I would probably like cut them off and introduce myself.
So if we do this, what do we use? I've got, I think it's a conservation license plate. I should remember. Well, no, that was my last vehicle. I can't believe they took that license plate, but it had a bald eagle or something on it. So what do we use?
Yeah, I mean, the logo doesn't work because you don't convey what it is. It's too many words.
Yeah, I like that idea. That'd be cool.
Like dinosaurs.
It really does.
Practical application for a quick. Oh, look.
What about
Give us ideas.
Anyways, just a thought.
Right. Thank you.
If you don't mind just looking into that, just
Yeah.
how many signatures and I think I understood you say signatures meaning on the ballot. Yeah. Okay.
That might be something to send out to all the members of the museum, because how many of them may say, oh, sure, I'll pay $25 extra bucks a month or a year or whatever.
Okay.
So the Museum of Natural Sciences in North Carolina does have like a T-Rex skull head.
And that's trite.
So that could work. I was just thinking it's a lot of words to put on a license plate, but they're small.
It has to be simple and easier. Right?
450 of them.
Oh.
First you got those.
Sure.
That's over my home. Yes.
That's not unachievable.
That's the word I was looking.
I think Nathan will be first on the list.
Yeah, obviously. My car first, but
Are you volunteering to spearhead?
I'm in on at least do some research.
Speaking of cars, I got a text that people who have their car stolen has to check the side of bag. So trouble. So
yeah, if you had colors,
we had a wedding last night, and at 11 o'clock last night, I got a call. Some kids lifted a car because the owners left their keys on the front seat or something like that. And so, but anyway, they retained it. The kids who they took a few personal effects out of the car. I don't know what that means, but they took some stuff out. But the kids have been apprehended. So I've also reached out as best I could. I hate the idea that these kids, they did a serious crime, right? But I hate the idea that they're starting out their lives like this. I don't know what we could do. When kids came and set an old vehicle on fire at Douglas Avenue years ago, yeah, these are things we deal with. We did reach out. They didn't take advantage, but we wanted to see if there was any way we could reach out to develop a relationship with them to try to help them along, because these are kids who need attention. They need opportunity and everything. And so we're doing the same thing with these guys. We're hoping for the best.
You could have Dino Fest coming up and inflated dinosaur costumes.
Oh, awesome!
Service hours.
They'll walk off.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
I'm gonna go steal the personal action signs.
I'll use it at the time.
Yeah, so I'd like to thank everyone for your time. Thank everyone online. Also want to thank Jennifer for scheduling efforts for all the meetings and details this weekend. And I believe that includes lunch next door.
it does.
Okay. You can enjoy here or grab and go. And she's also going to share future meeting dates with you. If you'll please mark your calendars. And we will do our best to use our virtual option if it's not necessary that we be in person. But I hope too that you see the value of being in person so we can see some of the things we're talking about. And of course, the staff, thank you for your time as well. And also when you leave, if you'll note the updated pollinator garden, which our master naturalist updated, it looks really well, thank you.
Christy and her team coordinated the master naturalist to make the improvements, and they also you either have been or have completed work in the Jim Kelvin monitoring
So
station.
that's the one that we're working on currently. And then after that one gets some from TLC, we'll move to the front area of.
When I did see photos of our staff on Facebook,
Yes.
helping as well. So
Yes.
thank you to everyone that did that. If there's no further business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, this meeting's adjourned.